Congratulations, Jim. Next, it is my honor to announce Dave Mawhinney for the Tepper Alumni Achievement Award. Dave is from the class of 1990, and I think it's fair to say that Dave embodies entrepreneurship. I know he's here with his family this evening, and many of you probably have had knowledge of Dave or worked with Dave in some way. He's a successful serial entrepreneur, a well-respected leader in the field of entrepreneurship, and a mentor to countless entrepreneurs. Dave is the director of the Swartz Center for Entrepreneurship, the executive director of the Donald H. Jones Center for Entrepreneurship, and an associate teaching professor at the Tepper School. He also serves as the managing director of the Open Field Entrepreneurs Fund and director of the I6 Agile Innovation System, a collaboration between Innovation Works and Carnegie Mellon University. Previously, Dave was co-founder, chairman, and CEO of MSpoke, an internet content and advertising recommendation engine that was acquired by LinkedIn in 2010. He was also the general partner of PNC Technology Investors and has co-founded several successful startup ventures. Dave's commitment to the Tepper School and CMU spans well over beyond his job. Dave serves on advisory boards for the Tepper Don Jones Center and for Carnegie Mellon's Project Olympus. He participated in his 25th reunion committee, was a GSIA class agent, and has been an alumni speaker on numerous panels and events in Silicon Valley, in Pittsburgh, New York, and Boston. Personally, he's a friend. I know for many of you, if you've called Dave over the years, he's always taken the call. He's always willing to help. He's always open to alumni. And I'd like to welcome Dave to receive the 2017 Tepper Alumni Award for Achievement.
Thank you, Lori, and thanks, Bob, Mike, and Lori, and to all the Tepper faculty that are here. Thank you to Jeffrey Meckler, Paresh Kabashi, Frank Demler, and Henry Thorne, who had nominated me for this award, my best friend from grad school here, and his wife, Phil and Patty Estep. Thanks to the Alumni Board and to the Alumni Office, who supported me in this award. And really, congratulations to all the awardees tonight. They're just an amazing group of people. Thanks to my family that's here. They've always been my inspiration. My wife, Kristen, my three sons, who all attended Carnegie Mellon, Ben, Sean, and Mike. Yeah. To my mother and father-in-law, Jim and Kathy Edbersberger, who must have feared for their daughter and thought I was crazy when I went after this roller coaster ride of entrepreneurship. I'd like to share with you the story of how I ended up at GSIA and became an entrepreneur. It's probably similar to a lot of stories that you had. I don't think I've ever shared this with anybody, or certainly not publicly. It was interesting. I grew up the lowest of the lower middle class. My father was a Presbyterian minister, and he ran a social agency called the Pittsburgh Association for the Improvement of the Poor. It had a summer camp called the Fresh Air Camp, and we lived on a farm in the Fresh Air Camp. The chairman and CEO of Mellon Bank was the chairman of my father's organization. To escape the stress of his Mellon Bank job, Mr. Barnes would come to the Fresh Air Camp one Sunday each month to tinker with his old vintage tractor and drive it around the farm. Mr. Barnes was the most important man I had ever met, and I wondered, how did he become the chairman and CEO of Mellon Bank? And my father told me that he was a finalist with several other senior executives at Mellon Bank for the job, and he had to go to this place at Carnegie Mellon called the Graduate School of Industrial Administration to go through a bunch of rigorous interviews and skills analyses. He won that competition to become chairman and CEO, and his career was transformed. I was 15 years old at the time, and there were no expectations for me, and until that moment, I had no expectations for myself. So GSAA wasn't a place to me. It was an idea. It was an idea that I could transform myself to be somebody that would have impact in the world. So 8 years later, I was getting a PhD in physics at Georgia Tech, and I realized with epiphany that I actually could be more effective bringing technology to the marketplace to the benefit of society than working in a laboratory. So I decided to become an entrepreneur. And GSIA was that idea that would transform me. I made my way back to GSIA, and I was blessed to have been taught and mentored by Jack Thorne and Frank Demler. Many of you know them. I was further blessed to be at GSIA when Don Jones endowed the Don Jones Center for Entrepreneurship. I had this crazy idea that I was going to get Don Jones to start a company with me. I stalked that poor man. There was a big event here in downtown Pittsburgh called Entrepreneurship Day, and Don was one of the VIPs. And they had a ballroom like this for a keynote lunch. And I snuck into the ballroom, and I found the table with Don's name on it, and I put 2 chairs up, right? And I snuck back out of the room, and I went to the front door, and I was the first in line. And when the doors opened, I ran to that table, and I was sat there holding that chair, making sure no one else got to sit down. And over that lunch, I talked to Don about becoming an entrepreneur. Just before the keynote speaker that day, and some of you may remember him, John Conley of Riverboat Gambling fame, I asked the closing question. I said, Don, entrepreneurs never retire. You're going to start another company, and you're going to start it with me. Of course, he laughed, right? But it wasn't the dismissing kind of laugh. It was the laugh that said, I can't believe you had the cojones to ask me that, right? So we did. We started a company together, and it was called IndustryNet, and it was at the beginning of the internet era, and those 7 years were like getting a PhD in entrepreneurship. I came back to GSIA Tepper now, 6 years ago, to build and expand the house that Jack and Frank and Don built. It's now called the Schwartz Center for Entrepreneurship because of a transformational gift from Jim Schwartz, a fellow GSIA alum. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. I told Jim, CMU will always be good at entrepreneurship because of the amazing people that come here, right? But we need a better plan if we're going to go from good to great, all right? And that plan involves all of you. So every good entrepreneur always has an ask, so here's mine. Please help us make Carnegie Mellon's entrepreneurial ecosystem the best in the world. You can be a customer or a supplier or a mentor or an investor in a CMU startup. I have one more ask, and this one's for my sons, Ben, Sean, and Mike. Have high expectations for yourself. You can do anything you put your mind to. Dream great dreams. Thank you.